I also have got to tackle this Jake Tapper story because I think I understand why some of you are infuriated at giving this guy and his book any additional attention. I saw a clip today that infuriated me. Jake Tapper sat down with Stephen A. Smith, who's kind of the bon vivant of ESPN. He's the sports guy, and he's the politics guy, and he's Sean Hannity's buddy, and he's a real bombastic broadcaster and very popular and very polarizing. And he hosted Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, the co-authors of this book about Biden's cognitive decline and the cover-up that was associated with it. And Jake Tapper sat there and went through this whole laundry list of all the ways the Democrats have been lying. And not just about Joe Biden. Lying about COVID. Lying about the George Floyd riots. Jake Tapper sounded like he was one of the hosts on Salem News Channel. Jake Tapper sounds now like an absolute Fox News Channel primetime host. And I'm watching this, and finally I saw why you got mad. Because I got mad too. I'm watching this clip and I'm thinking, does he not know that there's hours and hours of tape of him doing the very thing that he's accusing the Democrat Party of doing? I mean, this is a pretty neat trick if you can pull it off. David Strum writes about it over at hotair.com. This is pretty clever if you can pull this off. You punish, censor, debank, demonetize, slander, impose damaging and arbitrary rules that ruin lives and cause immeasurable harm, use your policies to gain political advantage, monetary gain, and when the grift gets exposed, shrug, say it was a minor error, and garner applause for your political bravery. Now, David Strum is writing about Pete Buttigieg because you know what Pete Buttigieg is saying now? He was asked, is there anything you could do, if you go back in time, what would you change about 2020? You know what Pete Buttigieg said? One of the chief proponents of the lockdowns? One of the absolute ambassadors of school closures? You know what he's saying now? Gee, I wish we hadn't closed the schools. I mean, this analysis about what the Democrats and the left is trying to do right now is just spot on. Oh, just shrug. It was a minor thing. I mean, I want you to hear this. I want to play these clips for you, and we're just going to get it over with because I'm not going to spend any more time on Jake Tapper. You're right. You're right. I mean, I've been reading the book, and I got so infuriated in seeing this charlatan. This guy, I mean, you talk about a complete and utter fake. Now, the Democrats, they lied about the George Floyd riots. They lied about COVID. They lied about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. And yet, night after night, day after day on CNN, Jake Tapper himself was a part of all of it. And now he has seen the light? You got to be kidding me. So thank you for reminding me about the complete reversal, the hypocrisy of so many, whether it's Buttigieg. And look, Buttigieg is another example of that. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Democrats telling us that we would be complicit in the death of American children because Ron DeSantis here in Florida wanted to open the schools early. Oh, he's a killer. We had a clown show up at an event that I was part of where Ron DeSantis was to speak. And some moron unfolded some big banner and accused Ron DeSantis of being a killer because DeSantis didn't want to shut down the entire state, schools included. And this jerk comes into our VIP reception, disrupts the event with a stupid banner that he held up saying Ron DeSantis is a killer, DeSantis got all ticked off at us. He was mad at the radio station, and he was mad at me, and he was mad at, Job Creators Network that was sponsoring the event. He's prickly anyway. That's just Ron DeSantis. And, to his credit, he didn't need to have a guy like that who bought a ticket for $50 or $100 and walked in and made a fool of himself, unfurling a banner saying that DeSantis was a killer. But now those same clowns with the banners are turning around saying, well, we wish we'd have opened the school. Listen to Pete Buttigieg and what he's saying now about the COVID lockdowns in 2020.
We are going to go back to right after Biden gets the nomination in 2020. So, you just endorsed him. And you're Pete from today, and you get to talk to Pete from back then. What do you think you all should have done differently?
One, for the love of God, figure out a way to get the schools open sooner. We got very knee-jerk about this, and the costs were not just politically, but in a profound way. I think for a generation, the costs were profound, and I think anybody who was involved, who was, by the way, obviously doing their best to deal with a crisis that killed a million Americans.
Sure.
But I think most people involved would like to be able to have found a way to safely get more schools open more quickly.
That was a great first answer.
Turn it off. Can you believe that? Again, I saw that guy with the stupid banner. I remember Democrat politicians blasting Ron DeSantis. He's going to kill people. He's killing children. We've got to save the children. I remember that lunatic Randy Weingarten, that maniac head of the teachers union, shrieking about how she can't risk her teachers' lives by having them go teach in person. And now they're turning around and they're saying, oh, for the love of God, we should have opened the schools sooner. And it's like Jake Tapper. This is what Jake Tapper's saying now. He's on a tour to sell a book. And I'm going to tell you right now, this will be the last time I mention this guy, because this clip that I saw on Stephen A. Smith's podcast just did me in.
I don't like what the Democrats did when it came to Joe Biden and hiding the limitations of his abilities. I do think that Democrats, obviously, their approval ratings are in the toilet. And I think that one of the reasons they are is because Democrats just spent 4 years arguing that the border was fine, inflation was not a problem, and Joe Biden was up to the job. And I think that 4 years of that message was really harmful. I think there are other reasons, too, why Democrats have damaged themselves, not just Democrats, by the way, but institutions in general, the media, health organizations, universities, et cetera, having to do with the failure to acknowledge certain realities, whether it's having to do with riots after the George Floyd murder or having to do with COVID restrictions shutting down schools, and on and on and on and on. I think there are a lot of reasons why there are.
Turn it off. I can't take any more of that. Because there's a real simple question that somebody ought to ask Jake Tapper. Well, then why didn't you raise any of this night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year on CNN? Why didn't you raise any of this as you were attacking Laura Trump, and insulting her and claiming that she was a mean-spirited bully who was mocking Joe Biden's stutter when she dared to raise the very question that is the premise of your entire book? All she did was say what you said. She just did it way before you decided to make money on a book for it. And you accused her of being cruel and inhuman and mocking us. Do you know how children feel who have a stutter, that you are saying such a thing? Does he not think that there's a body of his work for the ages? The reason he didn't, Texas just said it right on the text line. The reason he didn't raise it on CNN ever is because he didn't have any money to make on a book. He was drawing a salary as a CNN host. Now he wants to make money on a book. And he's completely reversed himself. And it's putrid. It's really disgusting. So you're right. You were right to call me out yesterday for mentioning the book. I'm not mentioning it anymore. If you want to weigh in on this, feel free to join us, 800-655-MIKE. You tell me, you almost have to admire the gall, the dedication they have. Because they're good at this. Whether it's Buttigieg or Tapper or any of the rest of them. Now they're pretending that all the things that we believed in all along were their positions. Now that the grift has been exposed.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.